Story 1. I accidentally found out my fiancé has been creating erotic fan art, fiction for years. I am not judging, but when I mentioned it to her, she became furious. I have never seen her so upset. I am really confused. Me and my fiancé have been together for 6 years now. I love her dearly. My fiancé has always been huge into drawing in her free time. Frankly, she is really good at what she does. She has shown me a bunch of stuff in the past, and if I recall, she always posted it to her DeviantArt, most it is of video game characters. Some of her artwork is suggestive. Yesterday I was talking to a coworker about video games, and I remembered my fiancé did some art for one of the games we were talking about. So I decided try to go and find it. Being lazy, I decided to punch in her username into Google, hoping to find her DeviantArt. Except I had a lot more stuff come up. Google showed a bunch of pictures. I guess you could call them the NSFW version of art she has done. I ended up clicking on them and being sent to my fiancé's Hentai Foundry profile. I just kind of shrugged and didn't care. However, in the Google search results, I also noticed a link to an archive of our own story with her username. This got me kind of curious, so I decided to take a peek, expecting it to be just old fan fiction stuff she wrote ages ago. There was a lot of stuff, including recent stuff in her profile. Most of it was, I guess, what you would call erotic fanfiction. At this point I found it funny, and when she got home on Friday night I offhandedly mentioned what happened, and how I found it humorous. She got very upset at me, and started acting like I caught her cheating or something. I told her several times I am not kink shaming, etc. She told me I violated her privacy and broke our trust. She said that stuff had nothing to do with me and I had no business snooping. I tried my best to calm her down, but she was visibly upset last night. All of today she has been very upset, to the point where she said she needed to spend some time at her sister's. I have apologized, and told her it was an accident, and I have told her several times that I am not being judgmental about what she draws. However, she is still very upset. At this point I am at a loss for what to do. TLDR. I found my fiancé has been drawing erotic fan art and writing erotic fan fiction accidentally. She is furious at me. What should I do? She came back after I sent a large apology message, apologizing for laughing at her fan fiction, and it was not done out of malice and more out of awkwardness. We had a long talk about it. I explained I wasn't that comfortable with her keeping such a large amount of her life secret, hidden from me. She also admitted that oftentimes when she was saying she was working late in our home office, what she actually meant was she was writing, drawing stuff and just wanted to be left alone. I told her I had no problem with her hobbies, which made her happy. She also told me that she is so embarrassed because a bunch of it is self-inserts of her, and some of it would make me unhappy reading it. I asked her to show me, and she eventually agreed. I read some of it and it didn't bother me at all. Emo to me, fantasizing about fictional characters isn't a huge deal as it is simply a fantasy and not real. I asked if some of the things she writes are things that turns her on, and I told her I am willing to try anything at least once. Yesterday night she actually sat down next to me, and started writing while I was next to her on the couch, and she didn't seem embarrassed at all anymore. So I guess this is good. Thank you for your help. TLDR. Me and my fiancé were able to work things out, and she isn't so embarrassed anymore about it, and is willing to share with me. Thanks for the advice. Story 2. My 28F dog attacked my stalker after he broke into my house. Now my SIL 32F says my dog is too dangerous to be around my niece 4F. Feel like I'm going crazy. This is kind of a complicated story, but I'll just get into it. I used to be in this controlling, kind of abusive relationship. When I finally broke it off a year ago, my ex started showing up places, trying to get me to take him back. Eventually, it developed into full-on stalking. He would show up at my work, and took to just waiting outside of it after he was banned, leave notes on my car when I was at the grocery store, leave all kinds of flowers outside my house, and then stick angry notes on my door after he saw me throw them in the trash, wrote me all kinds of weird, obsessive emails and letters. I've had to change my phone number 3 times. The behavior escalated over time, and got scarier, more threatening. In one instance, he started a small fire in my driveway, but the police couldn't get enough evidence connecting him to it. It was after that instance that I put cameras in my yard. I previously only had them pointing at my doors. I was horrified to learn that the police couldn't do shit about any of this until my stalker actually was caught doing something illegal, like breaking into my house. At which point, I might already be dead. I decided I wasn't spending the rest of my life waiting for the other shoe to drop, so I got a handgun and a concealed carry permit, took some self-defense courses, and started doing strength training. I also looked into getting an attack dog, but after all the money I'd sunk into my other methods of protection, they were prohibitively expensive. So I went to my local animal shelter and got the scariest, meanest-looking dog I could find. This is where Thor comes in. He's a 100-pound American bulldog, looks like he'd rip your throat out on sight, but is basically a gigantic teddy bear. He loves every person he's ever met, is incredibly sweet and gentle with my 4-year-old niece, enjoys other animals, and even loves the mailman. I just kind of accepted that he probably wouldn't do anything to protect me from my stalker, but it didn't matter that much because having such a huge dog made me so much more confident. I brought Thor everywhere I could, and was working on getting him trained enough to be an emotional support animal, so I could bring him inside places with me. I absolutely would not do this until he was trained well enough to not disrupt a regular service dog. Last month, I woke up in the middle of the night to Thor whining. I was groggy and thought he had to go to the bathroom, so I got out of bed and opened the door. At that point, my house alarm went off and pretty soon after that, I was face to face with my stalker. I started screaming and went to run for my gun. Before I could do anything though, Thor ran across the room in full attack mode. The memory is really blurry for me, but there was blood all over my living room and I remember my stalker was eventually able to escape, at which point Thor chased him outside and then came back to me. When the police showed up, they said Thor was a hero who'd probably saved my life. I don't want to list what they found in my stalker's car after they caught him, and I'm shaking a little as I type this, but I'm sure he was going to bring me somewhere and kill me. It looks like he's going to prison for a long time though, so my nightmare is over. Pretty much everyone in my life thinks Thor is a hero, except my Sil. She and my brother have a 4Y0, the one I mentioned above, and she says she doesn't want Thor around her, the child, anymore. She says since Thor has snapped in the past, he could do it again, so he's not safe to have around kids. We used to see each other a few times a week before she decided Thor was dangerous. The way she words this makes me really angry because Thor didn't snap. He saw a stranger break into his home, heard his owner scream in terror, and reacted to defend me, himself, and his house. Nothing about that screams dangerous around children, to me, unless my niece is also going to break into my house and threaten me. This is also a very emotional issue for me because Thor isn't just a dog to me. He's my safe place, my hero, the one who protected me and kept me safe when no one else could. I've also gotten increasingly anxious since this happened, and I can't go anywhere without Thor. I barely leave my house, pay to pick up my groceries from the store instead of going in because I know Thor isn't allowed inside, and all my friends know that if Thor isn't welcome in their house, I'm not coming either, although they're perfectly welcome to come hang out at my house instead. I am really going through it, and am working with a therapist to overcome this. Luckily my office is still fully remote but I need to be able to go back to work once we're in person again. But I really need my brother and Sil's support. I think my Sil thinks I'm just pouting and that's why I won't just leave the dog home and come over without him. I don't know how to explain to them that the fear hasn't stopped just because my stalker is in jail. It's actually a lot worse than it was before. I've already suggested they come over and I crate Thor, but that wasn't good enough for her. What can I do to make her understand the situation better? TLDR, my dog took down my stalker after he broke into my house. Now I have severe anxiety and am too afraid to be without him, but my Sil thinks he's unsafe around my 4Y0 niece. I don't know how to make them understand that I really am too afraid to go anywhere without him and not just trying to win an argument.